The big semi-final that everyone was looking forward to is here. Jannik Sinner versus Carlos Alcaraz in the semi-finals of Roland Garros 2024. I cannot wait to get into this one. The head-to-head is 4-all between the two young superstars. We've got newly crowned number one Jannik Sinner versus the prodigy, two-time Grand Slam champion Carlos Alcaraz going head-to-head to make their first ever Roland Garros final. Look, this could arguably be the final. And the reason why I say that is whoever wins this could easily go on to win the title. And that's no disrespect, of course, to Alexander Zverev or Alex de Minaur, who are playing in the other semi-final. But this is, let's be honest, the two best players left in the draw, as of right now anyway. Guys, before we get into it, remember to that like button. Do subscribe if you're new and do leave a rating or review if you're listening on a podcast platform. Also, do please share the video if you did enjoy it. Plus, do leave a comment. Let me know below what you think of my thoughts, and also not just that, but who you think is going to win. Let me know. I'm always interested, and I'll see you guys in the comment section. Let's get into it. So, first of all, I'm going to break it down a few different ways, and then ultimately I'll give you guys my predictions. So first of all, we're going to talk about the route to the quarterfinals or semi-final stage, for both players, how they looked, who they played. Then we'll talk about the head-to-head between the two players, and interestingly, they've only played once on clay. So I will talk about that a little bit, of course. And then on top of that, I will break it down tactically and technically. Now, it is a pretty tricky matchup to break down in that sense because both players are very dynamic in the way that they play, especially Carlos Alcaraz. Jannik Sinner is becoming more and more dynamic as well as he adds to his game. So it just means both players are able to play in different styles and ways, and how that plays out onto court can sometimes be difficult to completely comprehend, especially because there's such fine margins, I think, between these two when they play. So let's talk about their route to the semi-final stages then. So for Carlos Alcaraz, there were a lot of question marks around his arm. How's he going to look? He'd only played Madrid. And look, the Madrid conditions are very different to Roland Garros. But despite not playing Barcelona, Monte Carlo, and Rome, he still came into the Roland Garros tournament and has picked up, I would say, form. He's picked up form. He's played himself into contention. A very easy straight set victory over JJ Wolf. And then he did struggle against the young Dutch player De Jong, dropped a set, but in the end came through in four. Then straight set victories over Korda and Felix Auger-Aliassime were impressive. But the most impressive of all was Stefanos Tsitsipas, who won a third Monte Carlo title only about a month ago. Made a quarterfinal run in Rome, made the final at Barcelona, looked like one of the contenders, I would say, to win the title in Paris. And he was actually my pick to go on and win the title and claim his first ever French Open title, but it wasn't to be. The head-to-head is 5-0, or was 5-0 in favor of Alcaraz, and he just showed why the matchup is so horrible for the Greek player. Destroyed him in straight sets. It was just a comprehensive breakdown. And it was actually pretty similar to last year. If you watched Alcaraz throughout Wimbledon, when he played Medvedev in the semi-finals, it was very similar. Medvedev did everything he could, but Alcaraz was just a level above. And no matter what Medvedev did, no matter what Tsitsipas did in this instance, Alcaraz just had the answers. And after in the post-match press conference, Tsitsipas just said, and I'm paraphrasing here, I threw everything I could at him, but his quality of ball, despite mine being really good, I think, his quality of ball is so exceptional. He's an incredible player, and every time I play him, I realize how much I need to improve to get to the level I want. In terms of Jannik Sinner, he has been good, only dropping the one set, which is a strange set to Corentin Moutet. But straight set victories over Eubanks, Gasquet, and Kotov. And then, as I said, that first set against Moutet nearly got bageled. In the end, didn't. But Moutet was good. He used the crowd. He's very unorthodox, likes the underarm serve, etc. In the end, Sinner navigated it nicely and won in 4 sets. The Dimitrov victory was impressive. I know Dimitrov, his best surface is in clay. He made his first ever French Open quarterfinal, but then fell at the hands of the Italian and now the new world number one after, unfortunately, Novak Djokovic had to pull out due to a knee injury. So that means that Sinner is now the new number one because Djokovic had to make at least a final to hold that number one spot. The head to head. Now we can talk about the head to head. It is 4-all. I'm not going to go into every single match, but one I want to talk about is this Umag match. Before that, they had some matches. You can see Sinner won at Wimbledon in 2022. But I want to really start from here and then work my way up. And I'll briefly talk about them. I'm not going to talk about them in massive depth, and then we'll mainly focus on the meat, which is talking about tactically how it might play out. So Jannik Sinner against Alcaraz and Umag is the only clay court match they've played. Now, it was nearly 2 years ago, so both players have improved substantially since that moment. Alcaraz took the first set in a tiebreaker, and Jannik Sinner then after that dominated, winning the next 2 sets 6-1, 6-1. He had, in my opinion, a period where he was just dominating proceedings, and in the rallies he was able to dictate the points as he wanted, not as Alcaraz wanted. And we know how good Alcaraz is at defending. We know that. But Sinner is a different type of player. And when I say a different type of player, I'll explain what I mean. If you are really good at defending like Alcaraz is, against a lot of players, you give them an extra ball, they might give you a chance to then turn the point around with a pass or slightly shorter ball. They maybe don't quite do enough when they're on the front foot, and it then gives you the momentum back. The momentum swings your way in the point. Jannik Sinner, generally speaking, given his extremely explosive game, he doesn't tend to give you those small little inroads in a point. If he's on the front foot, it's very hard to wrestle back control of that point with his extremely heavy hitting style. And also now he's added a good forecourt game as well, coming forward, being able to volley well. He's got a good drop shot. He's more inventive, I think, with his angles. All these things, right, make it even harder to break him down offensively. And in that Umag match, Sinner was getting outgunned in the second and third sets, really. Sinner was able to out-hit him from the back of the court. He was able to take proceedings. And Alcaraz just wasn't able to wrestle back momentum. And the sets just got away from him. They got away from him big time. The US Open and Indian Wells matches, Alcaraz won in 2022 and 2023, respectively. Look, the US Open one was very close. I don't want to talk about too much because Alcaraz went on to win the title. It's on a hard court as well, so I don't want to place too much emphasis on it. Similarly with the Indian Wells one, again, Alcaraz, we know he's very good in Indian Wells conditions. He's won Indian Wells twice. Miami, Sinner won, but I don't want to talk about that too much as well. Same with Beijing, where Sinner won in straight sets. The one I want to talk about a little bit is the Indian Wells match that Alcaraz won this year. Now, again, though, it was on hard court conditions, but Sinner was on an incredible run of form, of course, before this match, and he hadn't lost a single match. He was on an unbeaten streak. Won the first set 6-1, but then Alcaraz came back extremely well in the second and third sets and turned the match on its head. Now, I'm going to talk about how this might play out and also what's important for both players to do. So for Carlos Alcaraz, in my opinion, the best way to beat Jannik Sinner for him is not to just hit as hard as he can, trying to out-hit him from the baseline. That, to me, is the wrong tactic. And I think when Alcaraz gets stuck in a pattern of play where he's just trying to hit harder and harder, and it's almost you know you have as a teenager you might have a friend uh, who you guys that think is strong. Oh, let's contest, let's have an arm wrestle, right? And that's what it is. I feel like these two, they're obviously friendly in some aspect. They're probably getting less friendly as they get more competitive, and the older they get and the more they play. But it's almost, oh, you know what? You're hitting really clean. You're hitting really big. You know, I can hit bigger than you. And it's almost a testosterone complex. And who can win the arm wrestle, right? And I do feel like Alcaraz in the past has got stuck in this scenario, which to me is not the scenario that he should be getting himself stuck into because he's an extremely dynamic player. He can hit his shots in so many different ways, and I think it was I can't remember which player it was now. Maybe it was I don't think it was JJ Wolf, but it was one of the American players I think said that Alcaraz is so tough to face because every single ball that you get from him is different. So you could get a heavier topspin forehand, then a flatter backhand, then you could get a slice on the backhand, and the next shot is the forehand. Oh wait, hold on, he's taken a bit of pace off that, and he's found a good angle. Oh, he's gone flatter down down the line. Sorry, even with that forehand, Alcaraz is very good at varying things, being able to have the tennis IQ and the ability to disrupt the rhythm of an opponent. With Jannik Sinner, sometimes he gets caught in who can hit the bigger ball, who can blow the other player off the court. Now, Jannik Sinner's game is very explosive. So's Alcaraz's, no doubt. But Alcaraz's is more geared towards having variation and being able to, as I said, hit those different shapes and spins and styles. Sinner's game, right? If we're talking about, and yes, he has added to his game, so I don't want to say it's black and white, but in the past, and the basis of his game is to be on the front foot and out hit his opponent, make sure that he is the one dictating proceedings, and I'm going to be the aggressor. I'm going to blow off the court. That's Sinner's game. Take the ball early, rush you. Alcaraz can do that, but he can also play in different ways. If he wants to have success against Jannik Sinner, he needs to disrupt Sinner's rhythm. And that means not just hitting with him, getting the same ball every time, trying to out hit him, because Sinner will lap that up. He will lap it up and he will respond in kind with more pace, with more depth, and he'll kill you. And there's some players on tour that absolutely love it when you play one pace against them. Medvedev is a prime example of someone who just loves it. You keep on hitting the same ball at him, he's like a ball machine. He will just get it back with depth, with quality every single time. Sinner is like that, but a more aggressive version. He can hurt you so much more. So if I was Alcaraz, I would look at my previous matches against Sinner. I would also think about, okay, it's on clay. What do I like? I'm slightly more comfortable on clay than Sinner is. I would say Alcaraz moves a bit better on clay as well. How can I have success against Sinner? So let's now just summarize what my point and my thinking as I've brainstormed it a little bit now, and then we'll talk about Sinner uh, and how he could approach it against Alcaraz or should approach it. For Alcaraz, right in the rallies, let's talk about the rallies. He needs to utilize the drop shot, which I think both players will utilize at times. But when he utilizes it, he needs to be very selective. Because in a lot of the matches, and I watched all their matches again recently, Sinner tends to actually win the majority of the cat and mouse points when there's a drop shot and then they get there and then it's a dink and then, oh, wait, okay, they've got that as a lob. Oh, actually, they're back on the baseline. Sinner tends to win those points, those incredible points that we see between the two. Those cat and mouse points, he wins the majority of them. So Alcaraz needs to be selective about when he plays the drop shot, for one. And for two, he needs to add variety, and I'll explain an example of how he does add that variety or should add that variety. Backhand to backhand, he doesn't want to get stuck in that exchange. I'm telling you now. What he can do, which is, I think, quite a good tactic on clay against Sinner, is what Djokovic also does: is use that lob backhand as a variation. Make sure it's got good depth. It doesn't need to. It doesn't need to be particularly angled. You're more looking for depth to push back your opponent, make sure they can't hurt you, so you get a neutral ball at least, if not a ball to attack in response. No player on tour, whether you're a two-hander or you're a one-hander, can hit winners consistently off a ball that's coming above shoulder height. No one. If you could think of someone, let me know in the comment section, and I'm more than happy to have a look at it. But I can't think of anyone who can hit winners consistently off balls above shoulder height behind the baseline. Now, I'm not saying Alcaraz should spam that, but he should add it as a variation. He should add the slice as a variation. Now, on clay, you need to be careful about when you use it, because you slice and the slice isn't very good. It's either not deep enough, it's in no man's land, or it's not got enough angle, or it's not low over the net, so it's not skidding on enough, and it sits up. Then it leaves you open to the into in or into out forehand, which Sinner will oblige to, and he will hurt Alcaraz with that. Alcaraz is adding in not to get hurt and to be on the back foot. He's adding in to try and disrupt the rhythm of Sinner, right? And it has the opposite effect if you don't execute it correctly. The other thing I think that Alcaraz needs to do is make sure, for me anyway, that at times he needs to be a bit patient down the middle of the court. Now, this is going to sound really weird to say, but I think personally that in terms of shot tolerance, I think on clay, Alcaraz can be more patient than Sinner. That's kind of how I see it at the moment. Now, I could be wrong, because Alcaraz's tendencies to be attacking are there, and sometimes he gets frustrated and he does make mistakes. But I do think that Alcaraz has the variety to be able to stick with Sinner, and if he needs to go deep down the middle, do it. If he hits a deep ball down the middle with a heavy ball down the middle of the court with good depth against Sinner, Sinner can't hurt him from that position. He can't. He'd have to go super risky to hit a winner off that ball. If he gives him width, though, with not enough depth or angle, that's where Sinner will hurt him. And one thing I've seen Sinner do really well this tournament, and what he wasn't doing well at the start of the clay court swing, where he was almost playing as if it was a hard court, is he started to realize, I need to take sometimes a little bit off my forehand, pace wise, but make it heavier with more topspin, find those short angles, really hurt my opponent. Let's utilize the surface. If you watched him at the start of the clay court swing, he was hitting very flat, going line, which is exactly what you do on a hard court. Go regularly line. When it's sitting up, go deep and hard down the line. On clay, it's different. You need to be able to find good angles as well. Mix it up, vary it up. So that's talking about Alcaraz and what he can do. And finally on Alcaraz, I think the serve's going to be really important. He served really well against Tsitsipas. There's a high percentage of first serves made. I was very impressed with his serving display. If he's going to come and serve and volley, he should. Sinner doesn't stand super far behind the baseline, though, so it'll be interesting to see when and if Alcaraz does serve and volley, and how much success he has against it. But one thing I would say, actually, is Sinner is a very good returner. And I've watched him a lot, and he tends to like pace. I think Alcaraz utilizing that kick serve is a really good shout, but not just utilizing the kick serve, but I think he should utilize the body serve. Because I think with Sinner, he utilizes pace, and if you go into the body, it's very hard to be able to generate pace or deflect, redirect, hit a really aggressive return in response. Now, if Alcaraz can hit a heavy or a big first serve into the body, I think it'll give him what he desires, which is at least a neutral, if not an attacking ball, to pounce on. So yes, some of the thoughts that I have are for Alcaraz. Now for Jannik Sinner, what does he need to do against Alcaraz? Now in the past, he's had a lot of success backhand to backhand with Alcaraz and a lot of the exchanges. Alcaraz will try and get out of that by either hitting the lob backhand I talked about, or going into out forehand or into in, trying to change direction. Sinner's very good though running on the forehand side. So if, when Alcaraz does go into in on the forehand side, for example, he needs to make sure it's good enough quality. Sinner on the run on the forehand side, or on the forehand to forehand exchanges, I actually do fancy him. I actually think Sinner, the way that he's been hitting his forehand, I think he will have success in that exchange. Now, the question is going to be, is he going to try and be a bit more patient in this match, or is he going to try and be the aggressor? He needs to try and dictate proceedings here. Alcaraz will try and be the aggressor, change direction first. Sinner needs to make sure that if Alcaraz is trying to dictate, if he's trying to be the one doing things first, okay, you do that. But I'm going to make sure that if you try it, you're going to be taking massive risks doing it. And that means Sinner hitting quality from the baseline. Good depth, good angles, making sure that he's drilling that Alcaraz backhand, trying to rush him as well. If he takes the ball early, Sinner, he will be able to rush Alcaraz even on clay. And what's very interesting is there's not many players on tour, if any, I think, other than Sinner, that rush Alcaraz the way that he does. I've seen Alcaraz rushed against other players in very, very small moments. Sinner is able to do it consistently every time they play, and that's why the head-to-head is full. That's why Alcaraz has struggled with Sinner in multiple matches, and it's always a tough, tough matchup for him. Sinner has great quality, yes, but Alcaraz just struggles, I think, with playing against someone who's able to hit the ball as hard, if not harder than him, and is able to stick with him also defensively as well. Sinner is very good defensively. He's improved on that. If Alcaraz comes to the net and it's not a good enough approach shot, or it's just not good enough in terms of the serve and volley attempt, Sinner will pass him, and he'll pass him easily. So Sinner will have chances. I think he needs to also serve well. I saw him serving really well in his match against Dimitrov. He's seeing a lot of aces. So it could come down to, the baseline exchanges are going to be quite even, you'd imagine. I think it could come down to, and most matches do tend to come down to, the serve return dynamic. How well does Sinner serve? How does Alcaraz serve? And then how well does each player return? And I do think with Sinner, his returns need to be of good quality, because Alcaraz will open up on the forehand. He'll hurt him big time otherwise with the +1. And especially on clay, depth is key. If you want to find angles, fine. But generally speaking, deep down the middle is not a bad shout to get to neutral in the points. For Alcaraz, he'll probably be standing really far back. Sinner might serve and volley, opens that up. I wonder if Alcaraz might adjust his returning position to avoid that happening, or maybe he'll adjust it after, say, he does get, he does end up not having success on the return games because of the serve and volley aspect that Sinner's willing to utilize, which I think he should utilize given Carlos's deep return position, which we saw, by the way, in the match against Steph. Is Steph served and volleyed in periods and had a lot of success because Alcaraz was standing far back. That serve out wide from the Jew side, especially, is really crucial for Sinner, and he should get success from it. One thing also actually I wanted to highlight from about the baseline exchanges was court positioning. And one thing that I noticed in some of the matches is Sinner sometimes goes way too defensive as soon as he hits a ball that's not of super high quality. And then Alcaraz in moments would hurt him with a drop shot, because even if someone's athletic as Sinner, if you're 3-4 meters behind the baseline, to then get to a good drop shot is very difficult. Sinner, then, from the most recent matches I've seen, has been hugging the baseline more. He's been willing to try and take the ball early on the half volley as well if needed, but making sure that he doesn't give up that more attacking court position unless absolutely necessary. And I do think that's been a real positive thing. It's Russia's opponents. It's just meant that he's not as susceptible to the drop shot. And I do wonder whether he'll try and do the same in this matchup. Just hold firm on the baseline as much as possible, so that he almost eliminates a drop shot unless it's a absolutely worldy of a drop shot, right? In terms of anything else to talk about, I think that's pretty much it. Both guys are physically fit by the looks of it, despite the concerns from before the tournament. So it's fantastic to see. We should get a barnstormer. I'm going to go with Alcaraz in 5 sets. I could easily see Sinner winning it as well there. No, I'm gonna go Alcaraz. Alcaraz in 5 sets. I'm gonna go Alcaraz in 5 sets. I think he's been playing slightly better, potentially. I don't know, has he? Yeah, let's say he has been, yeah. I think he has been just. So yeah, Sinner in 5 sets is my prediction. Let me know in the comment section what yours is. Thank you very much, guys. Stay safe and well, and we'll see you on the next video. Also, make sure you tune in to our live watch along for this, which we'll be doing, and it's going to be an epic, so it's definitely worth making sure you don't miss it.